If you make a habit of answering every message the second it arrives, always saying yes, and showing up to every single event, people will initially appreciate you. But very quickly, that exact behavior degrades into an expected norm. Constant exposure strips away the psychological impact of your presence. There is no anticipation. There is no curiosity. When people know with absolute certainty that you will always be there, your arrival loses its sense of rarity. Think about the physical realities of perceptual adaptation. If it rains for 7 straight days, humans actively crave the sun. But imagine living under an intense, blazing sun every single day without a break. Eventually, you stop noticing the heat altogether. The author Robert Greene codified this dynamic in Law 16 of the 48 Laws of Power, stating, "Use absence to increase respect and honor." But people read that line and make a dangerous assumption. They assume that if they simply pull back and disappear, they will instantly generate mystique, which raises a critical question. Why does the exact same tactic of withdrawal make a select few people highly admired while causing the vast majority to be completely forgotten? The central trap of Law 16 is skipping the prerequisite. If nobody knows who you are, or you haven't yet built a reputation, disappearing does not create mystery. It creates total irrelevance. This flowchart maps the required chronological order for this law. It begins with presence. Showing up consistently generates recognition, which solidifies into value. Only after that foundation is locked in can the sequence transition. You apply strategic absence, triggering the final stage, renewed appreciation. You can see this clearly in modern media. If a creator uploads erratically, builds no trust, and vanishes, nobody cares. But if a creator spends 2 solid years delivering rigorous, highly anticipated work and then takes a calculated 1-month break to build something bigger, the audience actively searches for their return. The absence is never the catalyst or respect. It acts exclusively as a multiplier on the worth that was already established. A perfect execution of this sequence comes from ancient media through a man named Diogenes. He lived in a region plagued by lawlessness. Instead of hiding, Diogenes stepped out and actively settled local disputes. He became the most visible, reliable judge in the land. Eventually, the surrounding villages grew entirely dependent on his sense of justice. And the moment that dependency peaked, Diogenes abruptly refused to hear a single additional case, claiming the public's problems were ruining his private affairs. With their arbitrator gone, the region immediately slid back into violence and disorder. The resulting panic forced the population into a desperate plea. They begged Deioces to return, this time as their sovereign ruler, operating behind the heavily restricted access of a guarded palace. Deioces secured his ultimate authority because he forced the population to viscerally experience the pain of life without his previously guaranteed value. Human attention operates under the exact same mechanics as a market economy. When an asset floods the market, its perceived worth plummets. In 17th century Holland, an oversupply of tulips quickly rendered them ordinary. But the inverse is also true. Deliberately restricting the supply of an inherently valuable asset sends a shock through the system. The market demand spikes, and the perceived status of the withheld item surges. You can apply this exact economic leverage to your personal skill sets in the workplace. If you offer a common skill, you are highly replaceable. But if you cultivate a rare, specialized expertise that is exceptionally difficult to find, your leverage shifts entirely. Whether dealing in antique luxury goods or a modern career, making your contributions difficult to obtain is the single most reliable strategy to force the market to price you higher. There is a sharp boundary between strategic withdrawal and self-destructive isolation. Greene explicitly warns in Law 18 that completely cutting yourself off from the world simply severs your access to vital networks and information. Healthy strategic absence is the maintenance of strict personal boundaries. It means preserving your own interests, cultivating private friendships, and keeping your individuality distinct from any group or relationship. It also requires the discipline to leave while you are still wanted. This stone architecture belongs to the monastery of Yuste, where the immensely powerful Emperor Charles V chose to retire, permanently securing his legacy by stepping away before the public grew weary of his rule. We see the exact same preservation in modern entertainment. The striking, illuminated portrait of Greta Garbo represents an actress who retired early, choosing to permanently lock in her mystique rather than overstay her welcome. Stepping back is not an act of punishment against your peers or your audience. It is a necessary reset. It clears the daily perceptual noise, so people can actually recognize your contribution again. To put this into practice immediately, stop operating at default availability. Build undeniable